Hello everyone, Neil Tappin here from Golf Monthly, and welcome to this video in which we're going to look at the 5 best on-course swing tips. Now these are all things that will help you as we head into the competitive part of the season. Nothing too technical, but they're all designed to help you think clearly on things that are really going to help you swing the club better and score better as well. Now the advice in this video comes courtesy of Alex Elliott. He's one of the Golf Monthly top 50 coaches, and as I say, his advice is really simple and really effective. Right, we're here at the London Club. Let's get started. Right, so the first one on our list relates to how you prepare for golf shots. Now, Alex, you've got a line on the ground here. We've put an alignment stick on the ground. Why have you done that?
I want you to think about this in every single shot, a thinking zone and a playing zone. Like, golf's one of those sports, isn't it, where some advice is don't think about anything.
Yeah.
Think about this, think about that. Whereas I want you to think about 2 zones where you can be a little bit more swing aware. You can think about what swing thoughts or what you've been working on with your PGA Pro. And then once you step across this line, you sort of let the shot dictate the swing a little bit more. Okay, so
tell us then, so if this was you in this scenario and you're trying to hit the shot that we're facing here, it's a tricky par 5, you need to hit a good drive down here. What's the first part of the thought process for you, and then what's the second part?
So I've selected my club. So in this case, it does require a driver on this par 5. I would then be stood behind my golf ball because I'm taking into account, 1, the shot that I'm about to play, straight down target. That's gonna help my alignment. But I'm also thinking about my 2 swing thoughts right now. So for me, I get a little bit slidey. So I'm making 2 practice swings, exaggerating almost no slide and just a lot of turn. So I'm thinking about my swing, but I'm actually practically putting it into play as well.
Right, so this is stuff that you would have that you're working on at the range and you're focusing on that here.
100%.
And then you step over that line, and how does it change?
So once I've stepped over that line, what I like to do, Neil, this is a really good point actually, is stand directly behind my ball though. Okay. Because then I'm actually getting a view of what my ball to target line is. Yep. So I'm stepping across this line, I'm leaving that baggage behind, and all I want you to look at is what shot am I going to play? Now, for many of us, if we're a higher handicapper, that might seem a little bit unrealistic, but how I'd bring this to life for you is, imagine you're in the trees and you had to hit a low shot. Your environment would dictate what shot you're about to hit. Yeah. So I want that to be as best you can. Picture it, almost play a bit of a shot tracer out in your mind, and then when you're pulling the trigger, you've got a better chance of playing the shot.
Beautiful. Slight fade, straight down the middle. Yeah, and I think if you can employ this tactic, it means that you don't have to be without any technical thoughts on the golf course, because a lot of people struggle with having either too many technical thoughts or too few. This just gives you the structure that you need to be able to put it into play in the best way possible, and if you do that, you should be able to hit shots a little bit like Alex has just hit there. Okay, so for this one, we're talking about the longer shots that you need to hit from the fairway. Shots that so many golfers, myself included, really struggle with. You know, your sort of 200-yard plus shots. Alex, what's the advice to help people get a bit more performance out of their clubs in a scenario like this?
I think first off, I would say for higher handicap golfers, have more hybrids in your bag than long irons. Just a little bit easier, a little bit more forgiving, and they help you get it in the air. Yeah,
and I think for most people watching this, they probably, a lot of people will already follow that tactic. So how do you get the most out of them? How do you make sure that you get the strike that you're looking for?
Well, I think the misconception with these is we see it look a bit like a wood with a hybrid, or with our longer irons, maybe they get a bit chunkier, and we put the ball a bit too far forward, but then we feel the need to help it up in the air. Now, actually in golf, it's a bit counterintuitive to do that. I want you to think about it the opposite way. I want you to move the ball half a ball further back than you would naturally. Okay. And focus on making a little bit of a divot target side. Yep. So a nice little analogy here, Neil, I've got this tee down on the ground, is think about you've got an out of bounds side behind the golf ball, an inbound side on the target side of the golf ball, and to start with, just try and make a bit of a bruising divot on that target side. Yes. And then take that same swing thought of the ball a little bit further back and making that divot on target side into your shot.
Now this requires a little bit of trust. Trust in the fact that the technology at work within the hybrid is going to help get the ball up in the air. So I recommend you do this at the range, because the more shots that you hit where you feel like you're sort of slightly hitting down on it, the more comfortable you'll be in a scenario like this on the golf course. But as Alex says, have this as a swing thought on the course. It could help. Alex, the stage is set. You've got 225 yards over water to a tight flag. I can't imagine what could possibly go wrong.
I'm going to try and aim at the bunker here.
Okay, fine. Good idea.
Here we go. So again, I've moved it a little bit further back and I'm just focusing on where I'm contacting that ground.
Safe. Pushed.
Safe.
Not much of a divot, but I mean, I was taking a good look, and as you would expect, Alex is a PGA pro. The divot is slightly after where that tee peg is, and if you can have that image in mind before hitting shots like this, it gives you a really positive outlook that could really make a difference. Okay, so if you want to shoot better scores this year, then hitting the ball onto the green from scenarios like this is, I'd say, a bit of a must.
100%.
Yeah, and I think, Alex, what would be great here is if you could come up with some advice for me to help me become a bit more consistent from this sort of yardage. So avoiding hitting those kind of bad shots that end up costing you a bogey when you're in actually really a good position. Yeah,
I think it's probably the most frustrating thing in golf. You feel like you've done the hard work from the tee and you get here. Okay, so a nice rule of thumb, anytime you've got a club that's 7-iron and below, I want you to go and commit to a round of doing this and see what results you get of playing a 3/4 shot.
Okay, right, fine.
So this example here is 144 yards. Would actually be a comfortable, maybe quite a hard 9-iron for me. I'm going to go one club more.
Okay.
I'm going to use my 8-iron. And I'm going to follow this process. So I'm going to firstly grip down, and I would have even amount of grip at the top and the bottom of the club.
Okay.
Rather than being gripped right at the top.
How much is that taking off the shot, do you think?
For me, probably about 5 yards.
Okay.
But I don't want you to think about it as sort of in detail as that. Just think about it as giving you more control.
More control. So you clubbed up, but getting yourself more control.
Exactly. The next thing I want you to think about is just moving that ball a position back. So my 8-iron would roughly be around, let's say, just left of my zip. I'm going to move it just to sort of on my zip,
okay,
for an example. And then when you're in the shot, just make that shoulder height swing through to shoulder height swing and pose that finish for 3 seconds. As simple as that.
It is simple. I think it's something that we could all do, or we could certainly all at least give it a go, as you say, in a practice round, see how well you score. It could become one of those things that becomes absolutely crucial to you when you're competing with a card in hand. 100%. 100%. Go on then, Alex, have a go for this.
Okay, so here we go. So I've already gripped down. I'm moving that ball a position back, and I'm making that tailed swing.
Lovely. Nice draw, back towards the flag. And it just looks controlled, doesn't it? I think you can just see from Alex's swing there that it's not rushing into the ball, it's controlled, it's easy, and that's where consistently good strikes come from. Okay, so we're on the 12th hole here at the International, par 3, as you can see stretched out behind me, and I suspect you already know where we're going with this, but there's some really important points that we need to make. Now, obviously, we're going to tell you to aim at the middle of the green in a scenario like this and take the flag out of play. The question is, Alex, how do you commit to doing that? Because a lot of mistakes come into play, even when people have the right intention in mind.
100%. I think straight away, nice and simple, it's picking something out in the far ground. So for example, we've got these alignment sticks aimed at just on the end tree here.
Yeah.
And that becomes a real good focus point. Anytime we just aim at the middle of the green, we can sort of maybe get drawn into the flag.
Yes.
So having that discipline, aiming out something in the far ground is where I go with it.
Gives you a bit more focus. And then you're saying in practice, you would actually lay some alignment sticks down on the golf course, would you?
Yeah, if I'm going out on my own, which sometimes I do in the late summer evenings, I would pick out hard shots like this at my golf course and firstly put my yellow line down. So this would be my ball to target line. Really key that we put this one down first, because then we can build our stance around with the blue alignment stick, our ball to target line. Not the other way around, because what I see for most golfers, we tend to do a bit of a bad mistake here is aim our body. This would then translate to our ball to target line being a little bit right of that.
And as you can see from this shot, that's not going to end well. No. Let's say you're playing in a competition, you don't have your alignment sticks with you. How are you focusing on this process in that scenario?
So I think we can thank Bernard Langer for this one. I like to stand behind the golf ball, pick out my objective in the far distance. So we've said this tree, but I would go to the extreme of picking out a leaf on that tree or a branch. So aim small, miss small. Have a better chance of actually getting the green and achieving our objective of having hopefully a 2-putt par, but then creating sort of an intermediate target of a divot.
Yeah.
So essentially everything goes back to this yellow line.
Yeah. And you can see in the foreground, much easier to align yourself with something that's right here than it is something in the distance.
100%.
Right, this shot is tricky.
I know.
It's 175 odd yards,
yes.
isn't it, Alex? It's windy. You're going to have to hit it
as well.
For us.
I'm going to try. So here we go, being disciplined. And like we said, if you're on your own, put these down, it's really good for you.
Beautiful.
Looks pretty good.
Beautiful. It's actually finishing just to the right of that branch that you
take
picked
it.
out there. That's perfect. Couldn't be better. So I think that shows if you can have the discipline around how to aim in tricky scenarios around the golf course, that will build that positive mindset that you need to hit good shots. Okay, so the last tip on our list is about shot selection. Really important, especially when it comes to the short game, because there's so many different options.
Yeah.
Alex, we've got 3 golf balls set out in front of us here to explain the thinking. What is that thinking?
So I use this little mantra, and it's something that I do every time I play. If I can put it, which we can here because we've only got a little bit of fringe to go through. If I can chip it, run it,
okay.
And then last resort, get it in the air. And now, a few things you've got to take into account when going through that mantra is obviously the lie, the obstacle in front of you. But in this situation, we've got nothing in front of us, and we've just graded what club we're going to use with a difference in the lies.
Okay, fine. So what's then the sort of thought process, the swing thought for each of these shots?
So putting here, I mean, it's a little bit hard. A lot of people would go with take it back this far, go through this far to have a gauge of distance. How I do it, I make maybe like 3 or 4 more practice swings, but looking towards target.
Right, okay. That just gives you a feel for that distance, yeah?
Exactly that. Just trying to see like what I think I've got to put into the shot in order to get it to go that distance.
What I like about that also is that it keeps you quite loose in your grip pressure. So
Yeah.
it stops you getting too tense while you stood over the ball, and that's what you're going to need if you're going to judge the distance right.
Exactly, especially on long putts like this, if you start tensing up, you'll find it hard to get there. We actually need a little bit of a lighter grip pressure to help us get it there.
Go on then, hit this one for us.
So it's going to move a little bit left to right as it goes over that brow.
This is tricky. I think you judged that.
I think that could be pretty good.
Really well. Get down a bit.
Go on.
Very good. Nicely played. Okay, so then now you're faced with the chip and run shot. What's the swing thought, the technical approach to the chip and run?
So I'm going to play this in my 9-iron. I use my 9 as my chip and run club. 7-iron for me, I just feel it comes off a bit too hot.
Fast, yeah.
Yeah, and I like the fact that 9 gives you a bit of loft as well. So how I play this, I grip right down towards the bottom of the grip. I walk in a little bit closer, trying to encourage that shaft angle to get a little bit steeper. Pull my left foot back, put my weight on my left with the ball back, and just keep the triangle back and through.
And through.
Simple as that.
Go on then.
And again, just
Nicely
trying to get
played.
it to roll out like a putt.
Yeah, very good. Simple, and I think that's the key there. If you keep it as simple as that, what can go wrong? I know what can go wrong. I'm sure you do too, but fewer things can go wrong. Okay, so this is the higher tariff shot then. This is the wedge shot. How are you thinking about this one?
So I've gone with my 50 degree. Many of us might carry 3 or 4 different wedges in our bag, and this is sort of my lower lofted specialist wedge. How I play this one is very similar to the last one, to be honest with you. Like,
okay.
I wouldn't change too much apart from ball position.
Okay.
I'm just going to move it a little bit more towards the middle, still keep my weight on my left, and still keep this triangle in this sense, because I don't really need to play it too high.
You don't need to have loads of height, but
Sure.
you want that little bit more loft, you want that little bit more check control in it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I'm in, picturing the same.
That's really well played. Hopefully you can see just how simple Alex has made those. Is that going to go in?
Not quite.
Oh, hopefully you can see how simple Alex has made those 3 shots. And that's, I think, the key here. If you can make these shots as simple as possible, then you're giving yourself the best possible chance of getting it close and getting away with a par. So there you have it. That's our look at the 5 best on-course swing tips. Hopefully you found that useful, and a couple of nuggets in there that you can take with you onto the golf course the next time you play, and it should help your scoring. If you've enjoyed the video, please do hit the like button. But that's it for now from the London Club. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.